Hello, everyone. Welcome back. This is the Q&A for Get Me Home with Neal Learner, and we have our cast here up on our page. So this was Get Me Home, obviously by Neal Learner. This was performed by Brian Hathaway, Elisa Danielle James, Anthony J. Ortega, Caroline Rivera, and this was directed by Sienna Reilly and Benjamin Brown. Great job to the cast and directors. We were so impressed by everybody. The performance was amazing. So Neal, welcome.
Thank you, and thank you to the cast and directors. That was so amazing to me too. It's really
Oh,
cool.
awesome. Yes, it was just so flawless. I was so impressed. So audience, as we go through, if you want to ask questions to Neal, I will bring up our live feed so we can get the questions going. But Neal, where are you sheltering in place right now?
Okay, I'm here with my wife and daughters in Alexandria, Virginia.
Okay. And how is it going up there? Is it safe?
Yeah, it's going great. I live in a community called Del Rey, so we're able to walk around. There's lots of places to stroll in the neighborhoods, and I love the fresh, clean air. Now that there's not so many cars on the roads, it's like you can just tell the difference. That's one good thing
That
that
is
came out of
nice.
this.
Yes, that is very nice. Sorry about that. So I would like to know the inspiration for this musical. You are our first musical writer with the Shelter in Place. So I would love to hear your thoughts on what the idea came for this and how it developed.
Okay. Well, the inspiration was it involved my daughter, who's a student at the University of Barcelona, and you probably recall back in March when the country was going on a lockdown, and they said, we're going to lock down the country on Monday. It's like, what the heck does that mean? So we had to scramble to get plane tickets to get her home, and so that was really kind of the inspiration. And I thought, when somebody needs to leave a foreign country and get back to the United States quickly, all the things that can go wrong. And then I started thinking of some of the other experiences I've had in airports and some of the hurdles and the snafus and everything. So it just kind of led to that. And I didn't really want to do it specifically about coronavirus because I wanted a little more timeless in that regard. But the inspiration was definitely about getting home quickly, and it was inspired by the shutdown of Spain.
Okay, that is fascinating. So your daughter is home safe, I
Yep.
assume now. Okay,
Yep.
good. That's
And
good.
and again, another thing about airports, which just sort of fascinates me. I don't know if you spend your time and you're at the arrival gates or the departure gates, and you see all these really beautiful scenes of people arriving. They come through the gates and they see their loved ones who they haven't seen for a while, and they drop their bags and they just rush into their arms, and these beautiful dramatic scenes playing out just on the minute. And so to me, the scene of an airport is kind of fascinating. And then there's also the angst and the anger that you get when your ticket's not right, or the sadness you get when people are saying goodbye. It's just it's a very interesting setting for musicals and drama, in my opinion.
Yes, and I love to call it a dramedy because of the seriousness, but the underlying comedic moments that were happening with it. I just thought it was brilliant.
And
So, yeah, and the villainy behind
yeah, well,
the attendant.
yeah, I've experienced that. I mean, right after 9/11, my daughters were toddlers, and we would go to Spain or something, and my older daughter had a little blue bunny rabbit, a stuffed bunny rabbit, and you'd go to the security gate and they'd say, okay, that rabbit has to go through X-ray, and it's like, but she's a little tiny little girl with her bunny rabbit, and they'd just be mean and they'd take it away, and it was causing this unnecessary angst. That's so those are the kind of things that stuck with me, and I wanted to weave those into this play.
I can see that this musical could definitely almost be an inner monologue musical type thing. Like if that kind of situation would happen, I would be like, oh, in the musical in my head, you're the villain. If something of a situation like that would happen. So
Yeah.
I would love to know your process in writing a musical. Does the music come first, the story, or the lyrics?
Yeah, that's the classic question. Music or lyrics come first. It's really, it kind of is organic to me, the way I write. Um, you know, definitely have a story in mind, and then I definitely have a scene, like what comes next. And I don't have the lyrics set out, but I know that, like, Maxine has a scene where she needs to, her ticket is not going to be accepted by the ticket agent. And so then I think, well, what would the ticket agent say back to her? And then I think of, like, what kind of music would that be? And that would be kind of more like sort of pompous music, and ominous music. And so then I play around on chords and I start coming up with some ideas. And then the lyrics kind of, I do a lot of la la line when I'm playing, and then sort of, a turn of phrase will come, and then it kind of comes together. And then I start working out more specific lyrics and polish those. But I'm always thinking of, especially, I think maybe the music is kind of the driver. Is it going to be sweet music, or is it going to be pompous music, or is it going to be funny or sort of sly, like where the Alonzo is saying, "Come here, I got a plan for you." It kind of goes
That's
like,
brilliant.
thanks.
Well, I have Benjamin Brown, who is one of the directors,
Yeah.
and he has a question. He says, "Hey, Neal, thank you for sharing this story, and I'm glad you enjoyed our product. Do you see yourself continuing to work on and develop the show?"
That's a great question. This is the first time I've written a 10-minute musical. And so I'm kind of thinking, yeah, like, what happens next to Maxine? I mean, she has to get home, and another dramatic setting is a hospital bed next to her dad. So maybe this will be the continuing adventures of Maxine T. Hart. And then what will happen when she gets back? Will Alonzo be waiting for her? That might be kind of interesting to see where that plays out. So yeah, I mean, it certainly wasn't what I intended when I started, but I've been kind of thinking and mulling it over a little bit, like a whole little series of 10-minute segments that can be woven into a full musical. So,
I
not a bad
love
idea.
it. Yeah, I love it. Well, Benjamin Bratcher has a question. He says, "I know many of those travel stories all too well. There can be a lot of drama in the airports. What made you decide to make this into a musical? Is that your preferred medium, or was there something that inspired you to make it into a musical?"
It's my preferred medium. I mean, I'm a longtime songwriter, and maybe the last 5-7 years I've been writing musicals. So I love the art form, and I also love the form of a sung through musical. I call them operas, but they're really just sung through musicals. But I've written a couple of these now, and so I don't know. I love putting music with interesting lyrics, and so that was kind of the inspiration. And being set in an airport, like I mentioned, there's just inherent drama in an airport. But yeah, I mean, to me, I've always got melodies running through my head, and I'm also a poet, so I just naturally put those two together, poems and music.
That's awesome. One of the actresses has a question, Caroline Rivera. She says, "How is it to see your work first in this sort of format as opposed to a performance?"
Well, I just was amazed. I thought all of the actors had just beautiful voices and really kind of just hit exactly what I was looking for. The worry, and then the endearing, the mother, and the pompous Pierre, and the cool guy, Alonzo trying to help her out and everything. So I thought, and the voices are just really beautiful. And I know that we had a conversation about a week ago, the technical challenges of working in this medium, because there is that little delay in Zoom or any of these other online formats. So what they did was masterful. In fact, I have a question for them. I'd like when we're done with this, I'd like to find out how you were able to manage to put all the music together in such a way that just sounded so great. So it was just really
Yes,
special for me.
for sure. I would also love to know how they got that all together. Well, what is the best advice you would give to someone who is starting to get into composing and writing lyrics for musicals? Because musicals are a different beast. You have the music and the lyrics. Do you advise people to partner with a composer, or do you recommend that you do it all together, all one?
I guess the second part of that question is, it really just depends. I mean, if you're a natural songwriter, if you've written for guitar and just written songs, then I think you can start to weave those into a story arc. I mean, it is a little different to write musicals because you have to write out parts and everything. So I think my advice is kind of like advice for playwriters that just read a lot. You gotta, I mean, that's what you do if you're a writer is you read. And if you're a composer, you got to listen to lots of different kinds of music, you know, classical, jazz, rock, Broadway, hip hop. Just know every kind of music, and also really immerse yourself in choral music because that's obviously it's the singing is where it's at, and so kind of know voices, know male voices, know the female voices, what are the ranges, and I mean I recommend singing in a choir. Just do anything you can to kind of be in the medium, you know, whether if you sing in a rock band or if you play in a sing in a choir, that's just immerse yourself in the music and then find a good story and try to find places where music will lead into it and just have fun with it. It's really, it's a pleasure.
That's awesome. I'm also, so with that choral singing, why do you recommend that? Is it just because it's more technical and it really focuses on the notes and more so the music than the person?
Yeah, I mean, that's the technical aspect. You gotta, I mean, you have to know how to write down the notes, and to score it out and to know like melodies and harmonies and to know what works. Um, so that, I mean, I've always sung in choirs ever since I was a little kid, and then I also play violin, so I knew kind of like the classical end of, you know, composition, and then you tie your different experiences together, and but again, it's like you have to know the voices, like what works in a what makes a compelling melody, what makes good harmony. Those are the kinds of things. I mean, you don't have to be like music theory necessarily, although that can help, of course. But you need to kind of know the mechanics of what you know, the parts, singing parts. Because if you're going to write out for chorus, you need to write out harmonies, and you need to write for female voices or male voices, things like that.
Yeah, that's very important. And sometimes you can tell when composers don't know one or the other. I've found that in performing with musicals.
Yeah.
Well, to end this, what questions do you have for the audience listening and watching this piece?
I mean, I think it's the same questions that a lot of your other writers had. Just want to know your general overall thoughts. I'd love to hear those. Um, uh, I was, I'd like to hear if it was abundantly clear the difference, like the drama in this, like Maxine T. Hart going to Max D. Hurd. I thought, you know, the actors did a great job of that, but I wonder if in the writing, I was a little worried that that might slip over the people's heads. So, you know, because that's really what this whole thing hinges on is that problem. So if that was clear to the audience, I'd be curious to know. And um, just that. And if people want to know the continued adventures of Maxine T. Hart.
Yes, 100%. I want to know the
Okay, great.
continuing event. So I'll join in that camp. Well, Neal, it has been an absolute pleasure talking to you and emailing back and forth for this. I loved your musical and I wanted it to perform. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you to the Tap House and everybody. It's just really a wonderful experience and a wonderful opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Well, everybody, that officially concludes Shelter in Place New Quarantined Festival. We are going to have a round two, and that is really exciting. We will be accepting play submissions until May 1st. So if you have a new work, either play or musical, we can try a musical again. You can submit to us at taphousetheater@gmail.com. Audience, thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate it. We couldn't do this without you. Thank you to all the first responders, healthcare workers, and anybody who still has to go to work and keep this economy running. We really appreciate you. Everybody stay home, stay safe, and we will see you the next time around. Bye, everyone.